All right, hey everybody, let's go ahead and get rolling. Once again, I'm Brian Fouts, going to be your host here for this special presentation. Some of you know me, some of you might not know me. But before we get rolling into this presentation, I want to kind of ask a question here. And this is one of the things that I truly believe, and this is why this presentation is so kind of important and so timely. So in life, there's something I believe that we all want to have, and that's control in our lives. Now, does anybody want to use that chat box and kind of guess, or what's one of the main things that you'd like to have more control in your life? Like, kind of think about that. Okay, what I want to use in my life, or what I want to have control of. And by the way, guys, use that chat box as we go through this presentation. Feel free to use the question box or the chat box and ask questions as we go through this. I'm going to be answering them on the fly as we go live, so that's what that is there for. John says, "Oh, this, yeah." So, John, obviously, your subscribers are on here, so that's awesome. I'm glad you're on as well. So, guys, so what's one of the things you want to control? Now, there's three main things that I look at when in life that we want to control, and a lot of people will say things like, passion or my job or work or whatever it is. But there's three main things that we look at, and that's why this presentation is so timely. So, one of the main things that we all think about we want to control is money. And by the way, the topic we're going to be talking about in this presentation, control of money, is is the big thing, right? Control of money. But one of the big things I truly believe in, besides money, that we want to control in life is time. Because time is one of those things that once time is gone, it is gone. It's not coming back. So we want to control time. And for me, by the way, that is my biggest thing. Mine is not money, by the way. Money's a big part of it, but the biggest thing I want to control in life is time. It's why I'm actually talking to you on this presentation. I'm on the road with my family. We're traveling, and I do this kind of stuff no matter where I'm at. And so I love what I do. I built my life that way. But control of time is a big one. But to control time, what do you got to control? Well, you got to control money. Okay. So if you control money, you can control your time. Now, the other thing, the last one that I think is almost more important than the other two that you want to control is your mindset. If you don't control your mindset, you can't control money. If you can't control money, you can't control time. Now, why do I say mindset? Well, we're going to get into that in a little bit here, because once you start to understand what I'm talking about, the concept, you have to overcome kind of the mindset around it. And that's a big deal, because once you understand how you've been programmed to think about money, right? Then you can start to change the way you think about money, and then you can get control of money and time. So mindset's a big part of it. So let's go ahead and get into this. And once again, guys, as I said, go ahead and use that chat box, use the Q&A box as we go through this, any questions, that kind of stuff. All right, now before we get rolling, I want to share with you this quote. This is a quote that I really like, and it's by Will Rogers. And the quote is this, and it says, "The problem in America isn't so much what people don't know, it's what people think they know that just ain't so." Because here's the thing, a lot of us have been taught to think a certain way around money, as an example. But here's the thing, a lot of what we're taught just is not true. It's not true, right? And so as we go through this presentation, as we go through these slides, I'm going to challenge you. Keep an open mind, right? Keep an open mind, because I'm going to be challenging the way you think about money, what you've been taught around money. So just once again, keep the open mind as we go through this presentation. Now, I want to ask you all a question. Now, if you had 18-year-olds, like 118-year-olds in a room, and you ask them all a simple question, do you think you'll be successful or financially wealthy at the age of retirement? Do you think that all 100 of those 18-year-olds are going to say, yes, of course I'm going to be successful when I'm retired, right? We all want to say that, right? But here's the reality of it. And this is kind of a crazy thing. If you look at those 18-year-olds, all 100 of them, when they reach the age of retirement, guess how many are going to be financially secure? Okay, it's only 5. 5% of them are going to be financially secure at the age of retirement. Okay, that's kind of crazy. When you think about what we live in the US or Canada, and we're in the land of opportunity, as it's been called before. So why is it that we're in this land of plenty, yet only 5%, or 5 out of 100 people, are going to be financially secure? Not wealthy, by the way, just secure at the age of retirement. That seems a little crazy. So let me ask you a question, and I'm going to challenge you guys. Put a 1 in the chat box if you want to be one of those 5 people, the 5%. Do you want to be part of that group? Yes or no? Put a 1 in the chat box if you want to be that one of those 5. Put a 1 in there. John said yes. Monta said yes. Okin, Susie, Lakey, and Norm, yes. Roosevelt, yes. Exactly. We want to be part of that 1% or that 5%. Okay. So here's the thing. How do we do that? How do we look at what the 5% are doing or the 1%, and how do we do the same things? Because here's the deal. They do think a little bit differently. They do think a little bit differently. And the concept that we're going to be talking about in this presentation is one of the main foundations of how they do that. So once again, keep an open mind. Now, here's the fun thing. That 5% is not coming from me. It's coming from the Social Security Administration, by the way. So they actually are the one that has that stat. They say that 5 out of 100 people will be financially secure at retirement age. So that is just unfortunate, and it should be a lot more than that, in my opinion. So that's why we're going to be talking about this concept through this presentation. Now, before we dive into it, some of you might know me, some of you might not know me. So my name is Brian Fouts. I follow that traditional path through life. In fact, I went to school. I went to Washington State University. That is my degree right there in construction management and business. I think I used that degree for about 13 years, and I have not touched it for at least 10 years. So, but I did that because that's what I thought I was supposed to do to live the life that I want. And I call that journey that I got my start on, and you may be able to relate, it was the hard way. So what was that? What was the hard way? So one, it's again, it was following that traditional path. I was raised lower income, lower middle class. Great. I came from a good family though, and I remember though having to get up in the mornings and put wood in the fire to get the house warm. It was kind of always that kind of that childhood where you had to work to get food and heat and all that kind of stuff. We used to go hunting a lot and that stuff. But I followed that traditional path through life because that's just what everybody else around me was doing. So I went to school, got a job. Maybe you can relate. I was saving money into a 401k because that's what I thought I was supposed to do. And here's the thing though. I had that house, I had the growing family, I had the white picket fence, and everybody was telling me that I had that American dream. And I remember thinking to myself, well, if this is the American dream, why does it feel like the American nightmare? And why do I say that? Well, because at one point during that journey, I was in a doctor's office. I was reading this financial magazine, and I was reading this article, and it said that the average millionaire, most millionaires, they know their net worth, but it also said that the average middle class person doesn't. And I'm like, oh, wait a second. I don't know my net worth. And so I went and that's the actual piece of paper there that I did it on. I did the math. I've been working for over 10 years in the industry, construction industry, and I was worth a negative amount of money. And I remember scratching my head thinking to myself, wait a second, I'm worth a negative amount of money, but I've been working for 10 years. This makes no sense. Now, granted, my 401k had been hit pretty hard in 2009, and but it didn't make sense. And I did the math moving forward, and I realized I would be worth less and less every year because of just mounting debt, payments, that kind of stuff. I couldn't keep ahead of everything. So I was just like, this makes no sense. What the F is going on? I got to do something different. And then something happened that really kind of had a massive impact on me. And it was not a good thing. So my grandfather was my idol. He was a high school coach. Everybody knew him in the community. He worked his butt off for retirement. And he reached retirement age at 60, I think he was 66, retired, was going to go live the good life with my grandmother, his wife, and go travel and stuff. But unfortunately, a year later, he got very sick, got Parkinson's, some other things, and then ended up passing away early on and never got to live that retirement. And I remember thinking to myself, is that what I'm working for? To like 1 or 2 years, maybe in retirement? It kind of scared me. And so that's what kicked me off on a whole other journey to do something different. And so I started doing investing, started doing real estate, started doing business, and became an entrepreneur. And of course, anybody can say anything on the internet, but this is one of the businesses that I actually acquired. I acquired it in 2016, I think. This is from 2021, I believe it is. And that business was on the Inc. 5000 list that year, did a couple $1 million in revenue. And, I never thought that was possible. But with some of the concepts we're going to be talking about today, these are the kind of things that you can do when you have an open mind and change your mindset. But that kind of kicked me off on a whole journey to learn how the wealthy did things differently, how they invested. And it's led me to do a lot of fun things. I have a lot of fun experiences. I'm all about experiences. Money's fine, but I love to have experiences. So I travel with my family. We do a lot of fun things. That's really what really makes me happy, but also sharing that with other people. So a big part of my journey and my purpose is to help other people learn these same kind of concepts. And this led me to speaking on stages about what I'm going to be talking about to you here today, sharing the knowledge, sharing these opportunities with other people. So once again, it's just kind of a quick background of how I got to where I'm at today and why I'm talking about what I'm going to be talking about. Now, this concept, though, that we're going to be sharing here and learning about today as a group here, it's not something new. A lot of people use it, and a lot of people that are talking about it. So who are those kinds of people? Well, you heard of Robert Kiyosaki. So I work with a lot of his personal advisors. I work with them personally as well. But he talks about this concept, which is the infinite banking concept, in his book Second Chance. If you know this guy, Robert or Tony Robbins, right? Tony Robbins talks about this concept and promotes it and believes in it in his book Money Master the Game. That's a great book, by the way. I like that one quite a bit. And then, of course, becoming your own banker. Unlock the Infinite Banking Concept by R. Nelson Ness. This is the gentleman that really popularized this concept years ago. And so that's a great book. I strongly recommend reading that book right there. It's pretty eye-opening, but it's one that I try to read at least once a year at a minimum. And then, of course, I have my mentors. One of them is Chris Noggle. And so Chris Noggle has written a couple of books with his partner, Brent Kessler, whom I work with. So Mapping Out the Millionaire Mystery and The Private Money Guide. Those are some really good books. And by the way, I have some free PDFs. So at the end of the presentation, I'll put in my email address. And if you guys want to get the Millionaire Mystery and I think The Private Money Guide as well as in there free, I'll give you guys those PDF books as well. So just remind me to do that at the end here. But I strongly recommend reading these books about this concept because it really can open your eyes about how it works. Now let's talk about kind of quickly who has used this strategy through history, because it really helps to understand like who's using this and why we'd want to use it as well, because there's some pretty cool stories about this concept throughout history. So one is Jim Harbaugh or however you say his name. I can never pronounce his last name, but this is what's called cash value life insurance as a strategy. And so he used this with the college he was working with to receive his bonuses and his salary. So they use this concept, and it's pretty cool how they did it. You can go look that up online. This guy, you may know who he is. He probably doesn't know his name anymore. His name is Joe Biden. But this gentleman has 6 of these policies, this concept in place. He had to disclose that when he became president. So he's using this. A lot of politicians use this concept. Disneyland. So Walt Disney, if you know his story, back in the day when he was trying to get Disneyland Disneyland going, nobody would give him a loan. No banks would finance him. So what did he use? He used this concept he had in place, which I'll get into what it is, to start Disneyland. So Disneyland and Disney World would not exist if it was not for the infinite banking concept. That to me is pretty dang cool. And this was almost 100 years ago, by the way. So keep in mind how long this concept has been around. It's quite some time. Additionally, McDonald's. So we've all heard about McDonald's, right? So Ray Kroc, who ended up taking over McDonald's, he used this concept to fund McDonald's when it was first getting going and getting it off the ground, to fund his and pay his employees and run the business for the first, I think it was about 8 years, using the infinite banking concept. So without the infinite banking concept, McDonald's as we know it today may not have ever existed. That is pretty cool. Also, the Pampered Chef, she used about $3,000 from this concept to start the Pampered Chef, which of course Warren Buffett, he acquired that for 1.5 billion dollars, which is insane. So that's pretty cool. And then of course a lot of wealthy families around the US and Canada have used this. So the JPs, Morgans, Chases, Vanderbilts, Rockefellers, and of course now you. And by the way, millions of middle-class families also use this concept. I have helped thousands of families get introduced to this concept and put it in place in their life. So keep in mind, a lot of people have been using this for a long time. Now let's talk about what infinite banking will do for you. Now this is the infinite banking concept, or IBC as I shorten it. So what can it do for you? So these are some very, very powerful things. So one, infinite banking creates guaranteed generational wealth day one. So what do I mean by that? So generational wealth is guaranteed day one with this concept. If you have another vehicle, like maybe a 401k or something like that, or even real estate, to be honest, day one, it does not create generational wealth. This concept does it day one, and you're going to learn how it does that. It allows your money to grow uninterrupted, compounded for the rest of your life, guaranteed. That one right there is worth repeating, by the way. So it allows your money to grow uninterrupted, compounded for the rest of your life, guaranteed. So let me ask you another question. Give me a 1 in the chat box, a yes, a Y, whatever it is. Do you want your money growing uninterrupted, compounded for the rest of your life? With guarantees, by the way. Is that something you'd like to have in your life? Does that make sense to have in your life? Like, go ahead and give me a 1 in the chat box. Yeah, absolutely. Norm says absolutely. Yes, there you go. Monza, Susie said yes. Yeah, absolutely, right? Because that is really how you can build massive wealth, when it's uninterrupted. But at the same time, when you have this concept in place, it takes control of your money away from the big banks and Wall Street, by the way, and puts the control of your money into your hands. Remember at the beginning when I talked about control, we want to control things in our lives. Well, guess what? Money is one of the best things to control, and this does exactly that. And you're going to learn if you have debts, or you rely upon the banks, or your future is in Wall Street's hands, you're giving control away. This is about getting control back into your hands. Additionally, this concept, it protects your money. So protection is a very big thing, right? If you're going to make your money, you want to protect and keep it, of course. So this protects your money from lawsuits, from bankruptcy, from divorce and creditors in most states. Now, this is the big one. It allows you to be the bank for things that you may normally use a bank for. And those can be things such as real estate investing, college, cars, homes, investments, retirement, while still having all of the benefits listed above. So the cool thing about infinite banking is it does not just do one of these things or two of these things. It does all of them and a lot more, all at the exact same time. So obviously we're going to get into how it does that. So obviously, if you guys want, grab a pen and paper, take notes. If you have questions after the presentation, I'm going to be available. I'll tell you how to reach out to me. But yeah, use the chat box, use the Q&A box, put in questions as we go through this. So don't hesitate to do that as well. Now, here's the thing. Go ahead and take screenshots of the presentation and if you want, and I'm going to send out the replay as well. But here's the thing. I want to talk about mindset for a quick second here. And this is a really kind of a cool analogy. So who learns very quickly in life? Well, kids, right? Kids learn quickly because they're learning a lot in their younger years. And so you probably learned how to ride a bicycle. Now, if you learn how to ride a bicycle, it becomes kind of second nature, right? If you haven't ridden a bike in many, many years, you hop on a bike, you can still ride the bicycle. You put your feet in the pedals, you go forward, it goes forward. If you turn the handlebars to the left, where's the bike go? Goes to the left. Turn right, it goes to the right. But here's the thing. What would happen if it was a backwards bicycle? Now, by the way, this is a real thing. You can go Google it later on. Go Google backwards bicycle. It's a hilarious video. But what this is it's called the backwards bicycle. And on the backwards bicycle, if you turn the handlebars to the left, the bike goes to the right. And so in the video, there's this guy who says, oh yeah, I can learn how to ride this pretty quick. He hops on, tries to ride the thing, and immediately falls down and can't ride the bike because he's trying to go left and the bike goes right and vice versa. And it takes him a long time to learn how to ride the bicycle. So he's learning a new way of doing something that we all take for granted. Makes sense? Now, here's the thing that's really interesting, is that after he learns how to ride the backwards bicycle, guess what happens when he tries to get on a regular bicycle? He can't ride that one now. So it's the same thing about money, right? We've learned how to think about money one way. But what we're going to be talking about today is a different way of thinking about money. It's the backwards bicycle. And once you learn the backwards bicycle method around money, as an example, which is the infinite banking concept, it's very hard to go back to the regular way of thinking about money, because now that your eyes are open to what's really going on, you don't want to go back to the regular way of thinking about money. So once again, as I've said, just keep an open mind, but this is a very important one. And one of the main concepts about the infinite banking concept that we want to make sure we change when it comes to our mindset around money is, where does our money go first? Typically, our money comes in and then it goes right out to expenses, to debts, to credit card companies, to mortgages, all those things. So what we're going to be talking about is where your money goes first. Okay. Now, one thing I want to mention really quickly is why aren't more people successful, right? Why aren't more people successful? So these are the mysteries around money. So here's the wealth killers. So one is taxes. Taxes kill wealth. Now, I don't mind paying taxes, but I'm happier paying less, right? We all want to pay less taxes. Inflation, inflating of the money supply, which is what the Federal Reserve and government do on a regular basis to control money, by the way, kills wealth, because if you can't control your money, you're losing value. Volatility, the markets, they kill wealth. Interest, the average American household as of about 4 years ago was paying around $18,000 of interest every single year. If you have $18,000 of interest going out the door, that's not helping you build wealth, right? And it's, by the way, in recent years and months, it's gotten even worse. Lots and lots of debt right now, credit card debt. Now, mindset around money, okay? Let's think about that. Following the status quo, okay? Fear. There's a lot of fear out there when it comes to money or investing. And that's why a lot of people aren't successful, because they don't take action because of fear. Life just happens, right? We learn things as we go through life, and that oftentimes teaches us to do things that are not going to help us be successful. And then, of course, what we were taught by those around us, the educational system, employers, our family and friends, a lot of those things, uh, they hold us back, to be honest. And so, once again, keep that open mind. Now, really quickly, what's the definition of money? Because we want to make sure we understand what money is if we want to control it. Well, money is just a means of exchange. That's all it is. It's just a means of exchange. It could be dollar bills, it could be seashells. It's just whatever value we give to it, or in the case of fiat currency and the US dollar, it's what the government says it is worth. Now, here's a good question. What company uses compound interest? Do banks use compound interest? No, they don't. They charge you interest, but they don't use compound interest themselves. Because if you wrote your name on a $20 bill, as an example, gave it to the teller at a bank, do they take that $20 bill and put it in the back in a box with your name on it? Of course they don't do that, right? They put that money into motion. They put it into circulation, right? It goes into motion. So there's not a business that truly uses compound interest. Yeah. Now, are your dollars worth more today or in the future? Think about this. How many candy bars could you buy with $20 or $1 20 years ago? Quite a bit, right? Versus today. So your dollars are worth more today than they are in the future. It's always that way. So if that is the case, do you think that taxes are going to go up or down in the future? Now, of course, we all know that taxes go up typically. There's always been, taxes being added to gas, to this, to that. Taxes are always going up, right? They're typically not going down. So do you want to pay taxes on your dollars today or down the road? Kind of a good question. So when you think about that, why do I ask that question? Okay. Do you wait to eat bread or drink milk? When you go to the grocery store and you buy some bread, you buy some milk, do you put it into the freezer and let it sit there for 20 years and then go and eat it later on down the road? No, of course not, because it wouldn't be any good. It would be stale, it'd be gross. Now, granted, even if you put in one loaf of bread into the freezer today and you go into the freezer 10, 20 years down the road and there's two loaves of bread, it still doesn't matter. They're going to taste like crap because they're freezer burned. So the thing here is, why would you wait to use your money down the road when it has less value than using it today when it has more value? Now, what do I mean by that? Okay. Think about retirement. Think about your 401k. Think about your 401k. So in a 401k, what you're doing is you're giving up strong dollars today for weaker dollars down the road. It makes no sense when you think about it that way, because here's the thing. We do things with money that we would not do with things that money buys. So as an example, what do I mean by that? You buy a car. Would you buy a car for, $40,000 and put it into your garage for 5 years and then drive the car 5 years later? Of course not. You're going to buy the car today and drive it today. But then why would you take your money and put it into a 401k and then let it sit there and hopefully go up in value and then use it down the road when you wouldn't do that with things that money buys? It's a strange thing to think about, but that's why I want you to keep that open mind, because that's really what we're talking about here. Because what we want to do here with infinite banking concept is we want to use your good dollars today and pay back things with weaker dollars in the future. That's the opposite of what we've been trained, by the way. So once again, I'm going to say that one more time. We want to use good dollars today and pay that back with weaker dollars in the future, which is the opposite of what we're trained to do, by the way. Okay. All right. Now let's kind of get into it. So, and by the way, I know that I threw a lot at you right now, but up to this point, you've been taught just to accept that traditional way of thinking about money, but to really build what I call generational wealth, we have to challenge those old concepts. All right. And then, let's see here. Can we have access to this later? Yes, you can. Yeah. So this is being recorded. We will have that available to you. I will send that out via email. Definitely, for sure. Yep. Now, let's kind of talk about how your money flows. This is kind of something that when I learned about this, it was kind of a weird mindset shift, and I had to really think about it. So I wanted to make sure that we're clear on how your money flows. So let's just say that you're going to buy a car for $25,000. Okay. Now, by the way, don't get too hung up on the price of the car, right? It could be a Maserati, a Honda Accord. It doesn't really matter. But let's say that you have $25,000 in your bank. Now, let's say this is a special bank, and this bank is paying you 4% compounded on your money, into perpetuity, which if a bank did that, tell me what that bank is, because I'd love to know who they are, right? But let's say you have $25,000 in a bank at 4%. and you go to that bank and you say, hey, Mr. Banker, I'm going to pull my $25,000 out and go buy this car with cash. Okay. Now, let's assume the banker says, well, wait a second. No, don't do that. Don't do that. Because you're earning 4% on your money. Here's what I'll do. Instead of you taking the cash out of the bank, I'll give you a loan for $25,000 and I'll use the $25,000 in your account as the collateral. That way you still earn the 4%. That makes sense? Now, I'm going to give you, or the bank is going to give you a loan of $25,000, but the loan is going to be 6%. Okay? So you're going to pay 6% on that note for 60 months, and you're going to earn 4% on the $25,000 in your account for 60 months. So the question is this: are you going to make more money with your $25,000 earning 4% than you're going to pay at 6% on that $25,000 loan over 60 months? Does anybody know the answer to that question? Are you going to earn more at 4% than you are going to pay at 6%? Because a lot of people say, well, wait a second, Brian, that's a 2% spread. That makes no sense. Why would I want to do that? Well, here's why. Let's go through the math on this one, because math, by the way, doesn't lie. So on the $25,000 loan, your monthly payment is going to be $483. And the total future value of those payments is going to be $28,999. I'm going to round up $1, $29,000. Now, the future value of the money in the bank earning 4% is $30,525. So you essentially have made $1,526 by doing this right there. Now, for most people, that doesn't make sense. How can you make more at 4% than you are at 6%, paying 6%? Here's why. Because the 4% is going to compound year over year, whereas the 6%, you're going to be paying 6% on a smaller balance every month, every year. So the interest rate is going to be lower and lower on a smaller balance. That's why that works, okay? So bottom line is this. This exercise proves that you can make more at 4% compounded than you can paying 6%, okay? So once again, change your mindset around money, because this is how banks make a lot of money and how you can do the same thing. Now, the money multiplier method. So here's the method we're going to be talking about. So the first one is the machine. We're going to go through what the machine is. Next, we're going to go through what is called the marathon, because this is not a sprint, it is a marathon. We're going to go through what that looks like. And last, everybody's favorite topic is how to become the millionaire using this concept. So let's go ahead and dive on into the machine. Okay, so the machine for infinite banking is nothing more than a permanent dividend-paying whole life insurance policy, specially designed, by the way, not just generic, with a mutual insurance company. Now, you might be saying, wait a second, Brian, what do you mean by life insurance? I don't need life insurance. Or, but for me, by the way, when I was really young, I was like, I don't want life insurance. I don't need that. I'm young, I'm healthy. This is not about life insurance per se. That is a big aspect of this, but this is about the infinite banking concept. So what I want you to think about is this. Infinite banking, the concept, is like a car, okay? Now, for that car to go down the road, what's it need? Well, it needs an engine and it needs fuel. Okay, so the engine is the life insurance policy, the dividend paying permanent whole life insurance policy. That is the engine that makes the car, the concept of infinite banking, go down the road. Okay, so I want to make sure we understand that kind of concept right there. Additionally, what is bank-owned life insurance and why do I talk about that? So here's the thing. So guess who the #1 purchaser of whole life policies is in the US? It is big banks. So here's something very crazy. Big banks own more whole life insurance than they do their real estate holdings and their buildings combined. So why is that? Why do the banks buy this asset? Do they know something that we don't know? Absolutely, by the way. So you can go look it up. You can go Google it. It's called BOLI, or bank-owned life insurance, and you'll see how much they own. It is insane how much they own. Billions of dollars of this. So gee, I wonder why they do that, right? And so we're talking about doing the same thing the banks are doing. And by the way, they're doing it with your money, okay? All right, so once again, we went through how you can make more earning 4% while paying 6%, right? Because why can you do this? How can you do the same thing? Well, with infinite banking, banking being the key word concept, you are your own bank. You're acting as your own bank for these transactions. So you're on both sides of this transaction here. On this transaction, you have the loan over here and the bank over here. With infinite banking, you are on both sides. You're a part of the entire transaction. And so you benefit just like a bank does when you go and get a bank loan. Okay. I want to make sure we understand that right there because you're doing both of these things. Now let's talk about how a bank works, because if we're talking about the infinite banking concept, how does a bank function? How do they make money? And when you think about giving a bank your money, this might change your mind about that a little bit. So let's kind of look at how they make money. So let's just say that you give a bank a $100,000 deposit. And let's just say, as I showed in that first example, they're going to pay you 4%. Okay, so you're going to make 4% on your money. They're going to pay you 4%. But what is the bank doing with your money? Well, here's the thing. They don't sit on money. They want the money in motion. So what do? Well, they lend that money back out. One example is a home, a mortgage, or a HELOC, something like that. Maybe it's a 7% loan to a homeowner. But guess what happens? When you buy a home, does the seller who gets the proceeds just sit on the money? Of course they don't. They put it right back into a bank. But what's the bank do? The bank turns right around once again, lends the money right back out, maybe on a car loan for 8%. But does the car dealer, do they just take that money and sit on it? Of course not. Same thing happens once again. They put it right back into the bank. Does the bank sit on the money? No, they don't. They put it right back out again, maybe on a home remodel loan at 9%. But what does the contractor do? What do his employees do? They take that money they make and they put it right back into the bank once again. What's the bank do? Lends it back out, maybe for debt consolidation loans. I've had those before. Don't ever want to have them again, but I've used them before. 12% maybe on those ones. What's the credit card company do? Same freaking thing. They put the money right back into the bank. And so the bank is just doing this over and over and over again to the point where, guess what? They're paying you 4%, but what are they making on your money? They're making 500% more than you, because they're making almost 20% on the same money that you put in there. 500% more than you. There's the math on the page right there. So that's what a bank does. The key thing, though, is what they're doing is they're keeping their money in motion. Okay. So that's how they make a lot of money. It's why they have a lot of the big buildings. Now, why do banks also go under? Because we've heard about that. Banks go under. Well, they have some very bad fiscal kind of guidelines, I guess I should say, called fractional reserve banking. Gets them into big trouble. We don't want to do that. We want to be good banking practitioners, good bankers, as I call it. But here's the thing. This is, by the way, a real stat. You can go look it up on BauerFinancial.com. Banks make between 400 and 1,300% on the money that you leave in your bank account. That's insane. So when you look at you go down, the main street of any big city, you're going to see big banks on the corners. You're going to see multiple branches. Well, how do they do that? It's because we are paying for that. They're making so much money. They have these big buildings. They have all these big things, right? That's what they're doing. And by the way, with Bauer Financial, you can go back and look, last year, 20 years ago, how much banks make on your money. It's crazy. And I remember I didn't know this, right? I thought, okay, that's the safest place for my money. But guess what? People have lost money in banks, right? And I remember here about 3 months ago, I was at a bank. I won't name which one it was. It has a blue logo. But I was at this bank, and I remember I was at the teller getting a check cash or whatever it was. And I see this bucket of the suckers and over there, and it was pretty funny. And so I took a picture of it and sent it to my team because we thought it was kind of funny. But the suckers were the dum-dums. And I felt like, man, I felt like, I kind of was like, man, I felt like a dum-dum not knowing how money works and how the banks were using my money previously for the most of my life. So once I realized what they're doing, it makes me want to get more control of my money, if that makes sense. So yeah, pretty interesting stat there. All right, now to understand how infinite banking can work and help you, let's kind of understand first off the annual pattern of spending. And of course, we're going to get into how infinite banking works. We're going to look at illustrations, some numbers. It's very cool, and it's pretty powerful when you see this. But we got to understand the annual pattern of spending first. So here's how it works. So let's say you have $1 that comes into your hands or your bank account. Where does that money go? Well, 20 cents of every dollar that we bring in goes out to automobiles, payments, gas, tires, upkeep, that kind of stuff. So 20 cents of every dollar goes to auto. Next, 30 cents of every dollar that you make goes to housing. 30 cents of everything goes to housing, okay? Next up, 40 cents of every dollar that you bring in goes to everything else. Think of things like travel, food, entertainment, that kind of stuff, vacations, etc. Okay? Now, what's left? Okay? So 10% of that goes to savings. So 10% goes to savings. So when you look at this, here's what's really interesting about this is that 90 cents of every dollar that you make goes out of your hands, is out of your control. You no longer have control of that money. 90 cents is just gone. You maintain control of around 10%. Now, by the way, 10% I think is very conservative nowadays. Gosh, I think it was about 3 years ago or 2 years ago, it was like 5 or 6%. And before COVID hit, it was a negative number. People were not saving any money. So it's probably not even 10% today. It's probably less than that. So, and here's the other thing that's very interesting. If you could talk to like a licensed financial advisor, what are they going to talk to you about? They're going to talk to you about the money you're saving, not the money you're spending most likely, but the money that you're saving, the 10%. Now, I don't want to talk about the 10%. I want to talk about how do you recapture that money that is going out the door, okay, that is going out the door. How do you recapture that money? So let's go ahead and look at how we do that, because how do we capture that cash flow? When that money's going out to those other people, you're losing control. So we want to maintain control. So how's that look? So let's reverse this. This is kind of cool. So we want to increase the savings category through the infinite banking concept. So as I said, on average, people are spending 20 cents of every dollar on automobiles. Now, here's the interesting thing. 5 cents of that 20 cents is interest. What if you could recapture that interest back into your savings or your control? Okay, let's go ahead and do that. We're going to put 5% back into the savings. Next up, 30 cents of every dollar goes to housing. The crazy thing is, though, that of that 40 cents, how much of that is going to interest? Okay, it's a lot. In fact, it's around 30 cents, or sorry, 25 cents. So 25 cents of the 30 cents for housing goes to interest. Now, why is that? It's typically because of amortized mortgages. If you look at a traditional mortgage, for the first 7 years, 80% of your money goes to interest. Now, you might be thinking, well, I've got a great 3% mortgage rate. Well, if you calculate that out as simple interest, it's actually 12%. We're all taught to that, a great 30-year, mortgage rate at 3% is awesome. That's amazing. Go and do that all day long. In reality, it's a lot more than that. Amortized mortgage is one of the biggest financial scams out there, by the way, in my opinion. So 25 cents of every dollar going out to housing is going to interest. So take that 35 cents and put it back into savings. Okay. Now with everything else, that's 40 cents, around 5% of that, or 5 cents of everything else is going to interest. Let's go ahead and do the same thing, put that into savings. So can you see that if you are the bank and you can control your money a bit more and control the interest that's going out the door and maintain control of the money, you can build wealth a lot differently. You can build wealth quicker. Does that make sense? So once again, don't get hung up on the rates and all that kind of stuff. Just understand that having control of your money can really put the control back into your hands, and you can control more of your money and build wealth quicker and faster. And I'm going to show you some real life examples of how this looks when you have this in place. And we do this all day long, by the way, and it really can blow people's minds when you really understand, oh my gosh, I've got all this money going out over here, but if I control it first, all of a sudden, whether it's 1 year, 5 years, 10 years down the road, your entire financial life can flip-flop in a good way, by the way, in a good way. So let's go ahead and look at that. So we're going to get into what's called the machine. So I'm going to give you some examples. Some examples, one is cars. So, and by the way, if you're into real estate, just replace the car with real estate that cash flows. But I want to give a car example because we've all probably bought a car or understand how buying a car works. Now, before we get into showing the example of how this works, let's kind of look under the hood of the machine. So this is the machine, which is in a whole life policy. So this is a kind of a graph of the numbers. Now, don't worry about the numbers over there and what they all mean. I'm going to go through that for you. But here's the thing. So there's some terms I want to make sure that we understand when I'm talking about a whole life insurance policy. So one, there are premiums. Okay, there are premiums. Now, when a lot of people hear the word premium, we think an expense. So think about car insurance as an example, or homeowners insurance or renters insurance. That's purely an expense. Health insurance, by the way, as well. There's no return on that money per se, unless something bad happens, which we don't want to have happen. But we think of that as an expense. So what I want you to think about is the premiums for this being a deposit. Because when you deposit this into your policy or your bank, as we call it, you can then leverage that money back out again. So it's very different. So think of, I'm going to use the word deposit or premium deposits. Also, we think about, oh, this is life insurance. Oh my gosh, I'm too old or whatever. So age doesn't matter. Now it does when it comes to what's called the death benefit. I'll explain that in a little bit. But we have people that are 75 doing this. We have people that are 18 doing this. Okay. So we can work with a lot of people. So age is not a big impact for most people. But yes, it does have some impact here and there. But keep in mind that, yeah, you can still use this no matter what. Death benefit. So yes, there is a death benefit associated with infinite banking and a whole life policy. Now, if you go to a traditional life insurance agent and say, I want to get a whole life policy, they're going to sell you a death benefit. That's what they're going to pitch you. With infinite banking, there is a death benefit, but that's not the focus. In fact, we're trying to minimize and reduce the death benefit so that we can maximize the value of what's called the cash value in the policy and use this as our bank within the first typically 30 days. This is not something that's 3 years down the road. We want to use this in the first, couple of months as soon as we can. So once again, death benefit is not the main focus. It is a side benefit typically of infinite banking. All right. Let's see here. Okay, there we go. So kind of let's look at the machine. So in this example, let's kind of bring this up here. We're going to look at a car. So we're going to have a policy in place, an insurance policy that's infinite banking structured, specifically designed for this concept. We're going to put in $10,000 per year into this policy, into this banking policy, these deposits for 7 years. Okay. Now, here's what we're going to do. In year 3, approximately, we're going to take $25,000 from the policy. It's called a loan. We're going to loan it from our policy essentially to ourselves, and that's going to be cash. Okay. And that's a guaranteed loan, by the way, that you control. And I'm going to talk more about this as we go through this. Now, here's the fun thing. That's cash. Okay, that's cash you took out, and you go buy that car with cash, or by the way, you go buy real estate, the cash flows, whatever you want. But as I said, in this example, we're going to use a car. Now, we're going to treat our bank like we would any other bank that we go to buy, get a loan from. We're going to pay it back with interest. So $500 per month, $6,000 per. We're going to pay that loan back with interest. So what does this look like? At the end of the 7 years, you've put $70,000 into your policy. You've also put $30,000 back in via the loan repayment. But keep in mind, what else did you do? Well, you took $25,000 out as cash. So you had that cash on in hand, and you can go do whatever you want with it. So how much did we really put into this policy? $75,000. Yet, here's where it's very important. Inside the policy, you have $67,000 of cash value that is yours to use. So what have you done? You have recaptured 91 cents of the money you put into this policy. You've captured that 91 cents. You control that money. Remember when we talked about back where your money goes? Well, in this example, you have recaptured 91 cents of every dollar, which is pretty amazing. Now let's look at the next set of years. So now we're going to look at years 8 through 12. Okay, but here's the thing. In years 8 through 12, we're not going to put any more money into our policy. Now, that's an option, by the way. You can do that. I recommend you still put in money into it. But if you want, you could no longer put any money into your policy, yet it will continue to grow for you, okay, which is pretty cool. But same thing. In year 8, we're going to buy another car for, let's just say, $25,000. So what's it look like here? Well, you pay the loan back just like you did in the first example, or the first car, $6,000 per year. So at the end of this, you put in $30,000 into the policy via the loan repayments, but you put in no deposits. And yet, here's the thing. Has your policy cash value that you can access gone up? Yes, it has. So you put in 30, you took 25 out. So you really only put in $5,000, yet your policy grew by $23,000. Let me ask you a question. If you had a vehicle, something like this, where you could put in $5,000 and have $23,000 of growth, would you want to do that? Give me a 1 in the chat box if you think that would be a good return on your cash, on your money. Does that make sense? So in this example, by the way, if this doesn't make any sense, don't worry about it. I can explain it, in more detail. Yeah, Jaleel, yeah, you obviously know what I'm talking about. But yeah, would you want to put in, $5,000 to get that kind of return back out of your of this banking policy? Yeah. Yeah, Charlie says, of course. Yeah, that makes sense, right? But this is what you can do. And this, by the way, is just a simple example of how this can work. Imagine if that $25,000 was put into a cash flowing vehicle, not a car, but like real estate as an example. Kind of changes the game quite a bit, right? So once again, this is just a very simple example, but You just made money. You have two cars you purchased, yet you have made money. You're money ahead. If you had just spent $50,000 in cash for those cars, how much cash would you have left? Zero. You'd have zero cash left. In this example, you have two cars, and yet you have $91,000 of cash value in your policy. You bought the cars and you put in, 5,000 and made 23. So once again, it's very cool how that works. All right, now with infinite banking, there's kind of three rules I want to talk about really quickly. One is pay yourself first. That's rule number one, because we've been trained that when money comes in, you pay all of your bills first. Now, I'm not talking about utilities and things like that. I'm talking about credit cards, car loans, student loans, housing loans, all that kind of stuff. We've taught that that's what we're supposed to do, but that to me is the wrong way of thinking about money, okay? Because what we do is we pay all of our bills. What is left over, we put into savings. What I want to do is put as much money through a policy first, so I recapture control, and then I go pay the credit card companies, I pay the whatever it is, the car loans. But in reality, the ultimate goal is that you are your own bank for those transactions, so that your money is never going out to the credit card companies, never going out to the banks. It's always coming to you. Rule number two, pay yourself with interest. Now, what I mean by that is if you're going to go get a car loan with a credit card, or a car company or a credit union, you're going to pay them back with interest. Do the same thing to yourself with your own bank, right? Pay yourself back with interest because you are going to benefit. And last is recycle and recapture your money. So what do I mean by that? Would you agree that it's better to pay yourself interest than a bank? I sure hope so, right? We want to pay ourselves with interest because you're going to get a lot more use out of that money than the bank. So pay yourself with interest and then recycle and recapture your money, which means keep it moving, keep it going like this, okay? Now, this works for a car, okay? That's a great example, but let's look at what else it can do. So one of the main things that kills wealth for a lot of people, especially the average American family, is debts. Debts kill wealth, and we're taught to go leverage, credit to live our lives. Cars, vacations, homes, toys, motorhomes, RVs, all that kind of stuff. College, by the way. And so what happens is that we always have debt. It's like this perpetual cycle of always having debt, always having debt. Hey, I paid off my car, go get another one with another loan. Hey, I just paid off this credit card, go get another credit card and go do something else and rack up some more debt. We're always in debt, and we know that's not the right way to do things. So what I want to show you right now is one of the more powerful ways that infinite banking can help you build amazing wealth. Because what happens is a lot of people come to us and they say, I got all this debt, I want to get rid of it. I've got cash coming in, but I don't want to just put it into the debts because I don't have any more money left over, etc. With infinite banking, you can pay our debts off really quickly, but at the same time, then you have cash value to leverage into assets and build wealth. So it's kind of this cool little flip-flop of people where they'll recapture the debts, control the money, and then start investing into other cash flowing assets. And all of a sudden, their entire financial life has changed. So let's go look at a quick example of how this looks. Now, this is going to be with a 45-year-old doctor, by the way. This is a doctor. This is it's a real example of someone that we did years ago. So total debt this person has is $478,000 of debts, okay? You can see all the debts right there on the page. Their total payment is $5,777 per month or 69 grand per year. Now, if this person was to just pay these debts off traditionally, making their monthly payments, that kind of stuff, it's going to take them 19 years to pay off these debts. Here's the question, though. Do you think in those 19 years they're going to incur more debts? Of course they are, right? That's what keeps that cycle going. So infinite banking changed the game 100% for this person. So what we're going to do is show you what this looks like. Okay, so with this example, this person is going to set up a policy, a life insurance infinite banking policy, specially designed, by the way, excuse me. They're going to put in $25,000 annually into this policy as the premium deposit. When they do that, now these are conservative numbers, by the way. They're going to create around $14,863 of cash value inside their infinite banking policy that is theirs to leverage and use. That's called the loan provision. So that's the cash value. So you can see it right there. So what are they going to do? So they put in the 25, then they pull the $14,000 out, and they use that to pay off the Discover card, the Lowe's card, and part of the Nordstrom's card. When they do that, what happens is their monthly payment goes from 5,777 down to 5,329, and they've recaptured $448. Now, what we do, and we show you how to do this, by the way, is you take that 448 and you put that into a separate account, or you pay it back into the policy loan. So you don't take that 448 and just go spend it on, whatever. You recapture that money. Remember, rule number 3, recapture. You recapture the 448, put it back into the policy loan. So next year 2, by the way, year 2, you put in $25,000. Your cash value goes up by $16,571, and the payments, the 448 back to your policy loan, created an additional cash value of $5,374. So your total cash available now in the policy is $21,945. Same thing. You borrow for the policy, you use that to pay off the Nordstrom card, the Wells Fargo card, the private loan, and part of the BMW. Your monthly payment goes down by $1,917. Same thing. You take that $1,900 and goes back into your policy loan. So in year 3, what happens? Same thing. 25 goes in. Your cash value goes up by a lot more now, because now you're getting the compound interest working for you. $25,541 goes, your cash value is now gone up by. Your payments back to yourself is $23,000 and change. The total cash in the policy now is $48,545 to borrow against. Same thing again, guys, same thing. BMW gets paid off, West Marine gets paid off, and you pay off part of the condo, okay? Your monthly payment goes down by $3,677, and the total debt is now $283,000, and it's only been 3 years so far. Now, before I get to year 4, I want to mention one thing. So this is called the marathon, right? So in that example so far, what have we done? How much have we put in? Well, we put in $25,000 for 3 years, $75,000. Loans we took out to ourselves is $55,000. Let me ask you a question. How much is left in your policy? Now, keep in mind, these policies earn dividends. I haven't got into that yet, but they earn around 5% dividends. Okay? That's that compounding, right? And that's you're going to earn that every single year. How much is in your policy right now earning you 5%? You put in 75, you took out 55. How much is earning 5% dividends? Is it $20,000? Nope. It's $75,000. Even though you've leveraged $55,000 of the 75 you put in, you're still earning 5% dividends on the total $75,000. That's pretty dang cool right there, right? So that's very, very powerful. Okay, let's go back to year 4. All right, year 4, you put in another $25,000. Cash value goes up by, let's say, $26,304. The payments back to your policy equals $44,124. So the total cash available is $70,000. Now, you're going to take that, you're going to pay off a large portion of the condo. Now, what happens when you do this, because the condo and the house, those are amortized mortgage loans, when you pay the principal down, the payment does not change. Once again, it's why I don't like mortgages, but the mortgage does not change. So your monthly payment does not change for that year. In year 5, same thing. 25 goes in, cash value goes up by 27 now. Payments back to yourself is 44,000. Total cash available is 71,000 and change. Now you pay off the condo, you pay off a large chunk of the house. Your monthly payment drops down, so it's only now $1,221, which is, by the way, is the house mortgage payment, and you're putting $4,556 back into your policy. Okay, so now in year 6, something interesting happens. So this is kind of something that happens with a lot of our clients. They want to do multiple policies because as you go through life, what happens? Typically, your income goes up. You want to do a second policy. Now, why do we want to do that? Well, think about a bank. When you go to a bank, you go to a bank location, right? The corner bank location. But in a big city, they have multiple different offices or branches, as we call it, right? So guess what you're going to do? You're going to open up another branch as an example or as an analogy, and you're going to do a second policy, okay? So in the first one, we're going to drop the payment down from $25,000 down to $10,000 because we can do that, okay? So the cash value on that first policy in year 7 or 6 is $13,000. In the second policy, you put in 25 and your cash value is $14,000. Payments back to yourself, $54,678. Total cash available is $82,000. Okay. Now, if you're not following the math, don't worry about it. Just kind of understand the big picture here. So you have total of $82,000 of cash value. what do? You wipe out the house, you're debt free. Okay. So now what do? In year 7, you take the freed up monthly payments, pay off your entire your policy loans, and you're debt free. And you're going to have approximately in your policy, I have to do the math on it, you're going to have over $100,000 of cash value in your policy, and you have no debt, and you freed up $5,777 monthly of cash flow. So remember, 7 years, debt free, you freed up 5,000 and change of cash flow, and you have over $100,000 of cash value in your infinite banking policy versus 19 years and zero left over. Which one sounds better? So by the way, this is just a quick example. It can work for any numbers and in many different scenarios. Now, if you're saying, well, that's a lot of numbers, how do I do that? So we actually have tools that we do use for our clients. So you don't have to worry about what I just showed you and how all the math works. We have something called the Debt Blaster we do with our clients where it shows you the best way to pay your debts off. We'll look at velocity banking, traditional banking, the snowball method, avalanche method, and infinite banking. And by the way, we've done hundreds of these. Infinite banking wins every time. It wins every single time. So it's when it comes to debt recapture and paying down debts, infinite banking is extremely powerful. So if you guys want to, see what this would look like, obviously you have an opportunity to reach out to me later on, but we'll show you how this can work. But it's very powerful. Okay. And we do that because we have a team that does it. So we have a full team that works with our clients. And so the implementation team will help you map out different scenarios for infinite banking, debt payoff, buying a car, investing, whatever it is. We're going to show you how to do that. So look at it like your own personal financial blueprint. Now, you might be thinking, okay, this is the millionaire method now. Now that we've done the car example, we've done the debts, how do you truly build wealth with infinite banking? Because what if I don't have any bad debt? What if I don't need a new car, as an example? Can I still benefit from privatized banking? The answer is an absolute yes. Yes, you should still become your own banker because there are so many things that can happen. But once you've done the debt payoff, once you understand that, okay, now I can buy a car, I can pay for college, do those other banking transactions, now the fun begins because now you start to build wealth with infinite banking. So here's some examples of how you can do that. So these are many, many ways that our clients use infinite banking. So active real estate investors, wholesalers, flippers, buy and hold people, commercial properties, mobile homes, storage units, private funds, by the way. So passive real estate, lending your private funds as an example out. That's a very common one that we help people do. Business owners use this as their business line of credit. That's pretty cool. Stocks and options traders, startups do this. Equipment flipping. If you're saying, what's equipment flipping? We have a strategy with some of our members do this where they buy forklifts or equipment, renovate those, and then lease them back out for cash flow. So many ways to make money when you are your own bank and you're understanding how to do this kind of stuff. So lots of things to do. So what I want to do now is go through an example of using your privatized banking system for private lending. Now, this is how you start to flip-flop from paying debt to now, how do we invest? How do we build wealth? So this is a quick example. Don't get too hung up on the premiums and the deposits that we're going into this. This is for, this person, but this is built for you. So wherever you're at right now, this will be built for you. But in this example, this person put in $50,000 per year, and in year 1, they put in $100,000, what we call dump-in or single deposit, lump sum, okay? Now I'm going to look at year 8 as an example because year 8, it gets really fun. So in year 8, the cash value in this policy went up by $66,000, okay? So the bank grew by $66,000 in that year, and yet how much did they put in? Well, they only put in $48,594. So what's that cash on cash return? Well, it went up by 18 grand, which is a 37% cash on cash return. So who here would like to have a 37% cash on cash return on their money? Give me a 1 in the chat box. Give me a yes. Does that make sense? Do you guys want to have that kind of return on your money? And by the way, it gets better, but do you guys want to have that kind of cash on cash return? All right. Yep. John says, heck yes, of course. Anybody else want to have that kind of return on your money? Sorry. My mouse wasn't working there for a second. Okay. Now here's where it gets kind of fun with private lending. So yeah, Charlie says, yep, I want to do that. So here's how it works with private lending. So let's say you lend money at traditional hard money rates, 12%. Well, if you take that money out of your bank via loan provision, you lend it out at 12%, What's your cash on cash return? Well, 12% private lending plus the 37% cash on cash return, less the 5% you're paying back to yourself, that's a 44% cash on cash return. It gets even better. So here's the options. What we did here, though, now granted, this is year 8, by the way, and it still works in the earlier years. It's just the numbers are a little bit different. We did nothing different except where the money went first. It went through their banking policy first, then it went to the private lending deals. So would you rather make 12% private lending cash or 44% by being your own banker first? So this is one of the more powerful ways that people use infinite banking to build wealth is private lending. Now, that's just one example, by the way. It could be on your own real estate deals. It could be on your business. It could be in other investments. It could be real estate, of course. That's a very common real estate is really, really common with infinite banking. Okay. Now, one of the other powerful things about infinite banking is the uninterrupted compound interest. Now, if you have like cash in a bank of $100,000 earning 4%, and you take out $60,000 to go do a real estate deal, you only have $40,000 left in the bank earning the interest. So you've interrupted the growth of your money. With infinite banking, when you borrow from the policy, it does not reduce the amount of money in the bank, your bank policy, by the way, earning you those returns. So it's uninterrupted. So this is why this is so powerful. So in this example, this person put in a $50,000 dump in, as we call it, year 1. You can do that. It's an optional thing. And they're doing around $5,895 per year premium deposits. Okay. So in year 2, they put in $5,895, but their cash on cash return is 21%. Once again, that's hard to beat right there. But their access to capital versus what they put in is 121%. So already they're money ahead. In year 10, it's 54% cash on cash return, and access to capital is 154%. Now, the longer this is in play, the better and better the compound interest is working for you. What do I mean by that? Well, in year 20, the cash on cash return is 191%, which is just amazing. The access to capital is 291%. 30 years down the road, cash on cash is 386. Access to capital is 486%. I mean, that's just, it kind of is hard to comprehend how powerful this gets the more it's in place. So very, very powerful. But once again, we use these things within the first 30 days to start doing these kinds of things. Now, as I said, this is a marathon, not a sprint. So how do you eat an elephant, right? We've all heard this, one bite at a time. What I mean by that is that the man at the top of the mountain didn't fall there. So what I mean by that is that you start taking those first steps. To get to the top of the mountain, you've got to take that first step. And that's infinite banking. You've got to start getting the ball rolling, right? Same thing with eating an elephant. Never done that, by the way, but one bite at a time. Now, this is kind of a cool kind of question. Is it possible to owe no man nothing? Well, how does this machine work? So this machine works for debt and expenses, vacations, homes, taxes, everything else, and so much more. So it can work for a lot of things. Now, part of what I want to make sure that you got from what I just talked about is this right here. So remember the example of paying off the debts. Let's assume, for an example, that you paid those last 2 debts, the condo and the house, you paid them back just traditionally, okay? Not with infinite banking, just traditionally. The condo was $879 per month for 251 months. The total amount you would have paid on that condo is $220,000. Okay. The house was $1,221 at 224 months. That's $273,000. Okay. That's a long time, by the way. At the end of the day, you would have paid $493,000 for the condo and the house. Now, at the end of the day, what would you have after that? Well, you'd have zero cash, by the way. You would have paid $493 and have zero cash at the end of the 251 months. You'd own the house and the condo outright. Okay? Now, let's assume that we did the same thing, paying them back, but with infinite banking and 4% interest inside the policy on the deposit we're putting inside there. Here's how it changes. So, at the end of the day, you would have paid back those properties and you would have $750,000 of cash value in your policy that you can leverage for building wealth, and you would own the condo and the house outright. So does that make sense? So what I'm saying right here, you have first example where you paid them traditionally. You would pay 400 and what was it, $93,000? Yeah, you'd pay 493 and own and zero cash left over and own the condo and house. In the infinite banking concept, you're going to have 750, 750 grand of cash value in your policy that you can use and do whatever you want with, and you own the house and the condo outright. Which example would sound better? The first one? Give me one in the chat box if the first example sounds better, or the second one, or sorry, yeah, this sounds better, or just paying back traditionally. Like, that makes sense? So it's a huge swing. Actually, by the way, it is a seven-figure swing from net worth. If you look at that example. Now, if you're saying, well, Brian, well, how does that work and how does that look? What if I wanted to invest? So once again, we have tools that show you how to do what I just said. So if you say, hey, I want to invest into real estate, or I want to pay off the condo, whatever it is, like this is one of the other tools that we have called the gain projector that will show you exactly how to do this, how the math works, and how the cash will flow to make infinite banking work for you. Okay. So once again, you don't have to think about this. You don't have to worry about it. We have software. There's no cost to this kind of stuff. There's no charges that we charge to you. But yeah, this is really how it's very powerful. So I hope that kind of gave you a good example or a good kind of a picture of how using infinite banking to pay down debt can really change your wealth situation. Yeah, so Charlie said it's still not processing in my mind yet, and that's fine. That's fine because and I'm going to show you some other examples here in just a moment as to how it works. But yes, once you it starts to click a little bit, oh man, it gets pretty fun. So and once again, so you know, don't grasp every single thing that I just said. Just grasp the overall concept that, oh my gosh, I can become my own bank and I can recapture my money. That's really what we're talking about. And so when I think about like doing this, like I think everybody should do this. I honestly do, because if you don't do this, you're in that perpetual cycle of debt and and paying debt, all that kind of stuff, and interest. You're essentially stealing from yourself and your grandchildren. That's how I look at it, right? So if you guys want to, if you have questions about this, obviously, as I said, please use the chat box. I'm going to go through some more examples and some more like numbers to get it clear in your mind. But if you want to schedule a call with me to go through what this would look like, if you want to go through like an example for you, if you want to see numbers, just go to brian.beyourownbanker.com and you can schedule a call with me. It's personally with me, by the way. It's not with somebody else, none of that kind of stuff. It's personally with me. And I'll put this in the chat box too. Let me go ahead and grab it. And then I'm going to go through the other examples and hopefully it'll clear it up for you a little bit more. Yeah, so yeah, John, it's for a lot of people that come across this, they've come across it before. Usually they've heard about infinite banking. There it doesn't really make sense. And so a lot of people will look at what I'm going to be showing you here in just a moment and it'll start to click. And then yeah, it's a no-brainer. Like they want to get in place. And by the way, you can do this on other people. And I'm going to share with you what you can do with this. So one of the biggest things about infinite banking and what it's doing for you is it's really making your money work for you, because we're so used to working for our money. Okay, we go trade time for money. The most common way to make money is trade time for money. Nothing wrong with that. But there's a point at where you have to get your money working for you if you want to start building wealth. Okay. And so infinite banking is about your money working for you. Now, let's talk about some of the other benefits of infinite banking. Now, we didn't even talk about the death benefit. The death benefit, by the way, is guaranteed to be paid out tax-free at some point down the road. It could be day one. Hope to gosh that never happens, but it could be day one, could be year 40. It doesn't matter. But with infinite banking, this is the death benefit, which is generational wealth, by the way, is guaranteed to be paid out at some point down the road. It's not a question of if it'll be paid out. It's just a matter of when, by the way. Okay. That's a very huge benefit. The loans, when you borrow from your policy, the loans never have to be repaid. You control the loan. You control how much you pay back, or even if you pay the loan back. Now, I recommend you do pay it back, but you're in control. Think of a car company. If you don't pay your car payment, what do? They come take your car, by the way. With this one, nobody is calling you if you don't make a payment, because there is no payment schedule. It's up to you what you do. Go look in a mirror. That's who you have to ask. Once again, you're in control. The money inside your policy, it grows tax-free. Okay, tax-free. The policies, they are exempt from judgments and liens in most states. What do I mean by that? Well, if you have a 401k or other assets and you get sued, they can go after those sometimes. With these ones, it is considered a protected asset in most states. That's a very cool thing. So your money is safe. Why do you think a lot of wealthy people do this? Why do they store their money in these kinds of strategies? It's safe and protected. Tax-free income in retirement. Who wants tax-free income in retirement? Right? Well, this can provide that, by the way. Now, I want to talk about number one, generational wealth. Generational wealth is one of the main reasons why people like infinite banking. So how does this work? So this is an example of a policy. This is a female, 42 years old. This person is putting in just $20,000 per year into a policy. Well, in year one, the death benefit is $325,000. That's a guaranteed payout, by the way. If something happens, 1 week after the policy is in place, that's guaranteed to be paid out right there, tax-free. Think about your loved ones. Think about taking care of them. Think about the next generation, by the way. This is a way to pass wealth on. But here's the fun thing. Look at year 4, $443,000. Look at year 7, almost $500,000. The death benefit in these things is always going up. So your generational wealth that you're going to pass on is always going up. It's a very cool aspect of these policies and the concept. Let's talk about policy loans. Okay, so policy loans, by the way, are guaranteed. So if you have cash value, you're guaranteed a loan. They cannot say no. There is no credit check. There is no approval for the loans. Ask and you shall receive the loans. And by the way, most people that we work with, they do that within the first 30 days. Loans are private. They do not go on your credit report. That's pretty cool right there. So if you're investing, if you are paying down debts, by the way, when you move the debts from the creditors to your own policy, it comes off of your credit report. If you borrow from your policy to buy a car, it does not go on your credit report. So it's a very interesting aspect of this concept that it does not go on your credit report. There are no minimum or maximum payments on the loans because you are in control. Now, I recommend you do pay the loans back, but we have people that do not pay the loans back. They'll pay maybe the interest on the loan, but they keep their money in motion, making the money in other vehicles. So they don't want to pay it back. They want to keep it making more money out here. So they're making more money because they're making the dividends in the policy and they're making money in a second place. So what did I just say? They're making money in the policy no matter what happens. If they borrow from the policy or don't borrow, they're making dividends. Their money's going to go up in value. Yet at the exact same time, they've borrowed from the policy and are going over here and doing other things to make more money. They're making money in more than one place at the exact same time. So can that build wealth faster? Of course it can. And lastly, like I already said this, but if you miss a payment, nothing happens because you're the one in control. Okay. Now, one of the questions I get is, well, what happens if you don't pay a loan back? Well, here's the fun thing. You don't have to pay it back, right? But the cash value, the loan balance comes out of the death benefit. So let's say if you graduate, as we call it, later on down the road, let's say your death benefit is $500,000 and you have a loan of $150,000 outstanding, then the death benefit would be paid out at $350,000. So that's the collateral for the insurance company to give you that loan. That's why they do this. So, and they've been doing this, by the way, for hundreds of years. Now, let's kind of talk about how you can fund your infinite banking policy. How can you fund your bank? So you can do it, by the way, monthly. You can do it quarterly. You can do it annually. That's the premium deposits that are ongoing, right? And by the way, those are not forever. They're only typically for about maybe 7 to 10 years, and then you can reduce those if you want. The minimum you can put towards your infinite banking policy is around 10 times your age per month. That's like the minimum amount that you want to put towards it. So if you're 40 years old, $400 per month. If you're 50 years old, $500 per month. That's like the minimum to get it going. The maximum depends on the individual. So it depends on your gross income and your liquidity. So if you want to know what the maximum is, I can calculate that for you. So once again, hop on a call with me at brian.beyourownbanker.com. Use the link in the chat box, and I can go through what those numbers are for you because they're different for every person, by the way. On top of the premium deposits, can you fund the policy with an upfront large, what we call dump in? Yes, you can. I'm going to show you some examples of what that looks like. But yes, so a lot of people say, "Hey, Brian, I have $50,000 of cash sitting over here. but I can't do $50,000 a year in premiums. I can do like, 1,000 per month or something like that. Can I put the 50 in as well? Yes, you can, by the way. And it gets you a lot of cash value. So the way this works is that how much goes to cash value? Now there's splits. So when you put a premium into a policy, the majority of it is going to go to cash value, by the way. So that's what it's called a HEC V, or high early cash value. I'm not going to get into exactly all what that means, but it's high early cash value, meaning you can borrow within the first 30 days of the policy going into effect. When you put in a large dump in, let's say it's $50,000, around 90% of that is available within the first 30 days to borrow against for cash value. And the entire deposits are earning 5% dividends. Right now it's about 5%, and it's never been lower than 5, by the way, on the dividend side. So let me ask you a question. Would you put in $1 in order to get $3 out of something? Now, what do I mean by that? So let me give you an example of what a policy looks like when it's being funded. So in this example, this is a female, 32 years old. They're putting in an annual premium of $10,000 per year. Okay, so an annual premium. Monthly, do it annually, however you want to do it. They're also putting in a lump sum of $50,000. So in year one, they put in $60,000. At the end of year one, they have $55,000 of cash value available. Now that's depends on the person, the age, all that kind of stuff, but that's what they got right there. That's pretty good. In year two, this person puts in $10,000. That's their premium, but the cash value, excuse me, goes up by $10,600. So they're already cash on cash positive. In year 11, we reduce the premiums down to $3,120, and the cash value that they can pull out goes up by $10,590, over 3 times the amount they put in. So let me ask you a question. Would you be willing to put in $3,000 into a vehicle like this to get $10,000 out of it? Give me a 1 in the chat box if you would be willing to do that. Does that make sense? Anybody want to put in $3,000 to get $10,000 out? Yes. So if you're kind of like, okay, Brian, there's a lot of stuff going on, a lot of numbers here. Just understand that right there. You're putting in $3,000 and you can pull $10,000 out. Like, that's pretty crazy. That's why infinite banking is so powerful. It's why the longer it's in effect, the better and better and better that it gets. Okay. Now, I kind of like this quote and I kind of don't like it. I have mixed emotions about it, but I want to put it in here because, it's Warren Buffett. And he says, if poor people would just do what rich people do, they wouldn't be poor anymore. Now, granted, they always can't do that, but infinite banking is one of those vehicles that the rich do use, that a lot of people can use, but don't know about it or don't know how it works, because a lot of people out there can't do it. So I'm going to talk some more about that. But once again, guys, Susie said that's doable. Yeah, exactly. If you guys want to talk to me personally, one-on-one about this, I build these things all day long, by the way. This is what I do. I also own other businesses and things like that, though. But you can go to brian.beyourOwnbanker.com right there. It's in the chat box as well. Now, why should I work with me, myself, or you, whatever it is, or with Brian? So here's some things. So I've been teaching this concept for about 7 years now, maybe a little bit longer than that. I built a course on it. I've done ebooks on it. I've been speaking on stage about it. We have an entire team that works with you to set up infinite banking. I'm not talking 5 people or 10 people. We have over 45 people on our team that work with our clients. Our team is one of the largest, if not the largest, producer of infinite banking in the US. So we are some of the largest brokers with the big companies that do this. There's not that many companies, by the way, that do this, but we are the largest. And that gives us a lot of resources that other people don't have, by the way. And infinite banking is the only thing that we do. Not going to talk about annuities, not going to talk about home insurance or car insurance or any of that kind of stuff. We do infinite banking, and we are entrepreneurs, and we all are practitioners and users of this concept. I personally have over 100 clients right now in underwriting, probably more than that right now. Overall, we have about 800 or 900 in underwriting right now doing this concept. We also provide ongoing support and services. So we have team members that will work with you after you have the policy in place. They're going to work with you on how to use it, how to access it, how to borrow, how to lend. If you're going to go buy a piece of property and you need help on how to do it with the policy, we will help you do that. And there's no cost, there's no fees, nothing like that for any of the services that we provide. We are very unique in that respect. Ongoing support, we have about think it's about maybe 3 webinars a week that we do with our clients and the public on infinite banking, and when we answer questions live publicly on the concept. So if you're stuck, you don't know how to use it, you got a question, you're going to have a go-to resource with our entire team that will help you. So that's a big aspect. I'm pretty proud of what we do. Another thing I also get a question on quite a bit is indexed universal life or variable universal life infinite banking? Bottom line is no, it is not. If you have a question about that, let's hop on a call. But bottom line is IULs and VULs are not infinite banking. IULs and term insurance pay some of the highest commissions out there in the industry. So that's why they're pushed quite a bit, right? Buy term, invest the rest. Gee, I wonder why they're saying that. I wonder who owns the term company, right? IULs pay very high commissions. They are not infinite banking. They do have some of the same traits, but it's not the same thing. In fact, if you go to the Nelson Nash Institute that actually certifies infinite banking practitioners, they will not allow you to touch term insurance or IULs. If you do, they will pull your certificate. They will not let you do it. And as an infinite banking practitioner, we take about a 70% cut in commissions to do infinite banking. That's a big one. If you don't understand how important that is right there, this is why a lot of financial advisors and agents will not do infinite banking or will sell you an inferior product because they do not want to take a 70% cut in commissions. In fact, I will share with you personally, I'll share with you our commissions. Now, I don't have to do that by law, but we do share it. If you want to know, we will show you exactly what it is and how we make money. And as I said before, our team only does infinite banking. That's all we do. We don't do anything else. Okay. Now, here's a kind of interesting thing to consider. In life, there's going to be one of two things that'll happen. We live. Okay. So if we're going to live with what I just showed you, are we better off with or without infinite banking? The second thing that's going to happen is we are going to die. Right? It's going to happen, right? So are we better off with or without infinite banking if that's going to happen? Right? Think of the generational wealth angle of what I just talked about. That's why this is so powerful. Okay. Now, I want to kind of share with you that kind of this it's kind of a story. And I called it a tale of two people. You may have seen this kind of an analogy before. Now, when we have turmoil in the economy, wealth is transferred. And by the way, wealth is always being transferred. It's always happening. But when, like we're in the current situation we're in right now with high debt, the economy, all these things, wealth is being transferred faster and faster and faster. And I see two groups of people when that happens. There's the first group. I don't want to do anything. I want to put my head in the sand and just keep doing what I'm doing. This is, by the way, the group that wealth is transferred from, by the way. Okay, it's transferred from this group. This is the group that that doesn't want to do anything different. And then there's the second group. This is the group that says, hey, I want to be on the winning side of the transfer of wealth. Hey, I want to learn what the wealthy are doing. I want to understand how they're doing things differently because I know that if I want to get different results, what do I got to do? I've got to do things differently, right? Okay. So this is the people that want to learn more things, that want to gain more knowledge and want to be on that other side. So the question is, which group do you want to be in, right? Group one, go it alone. By the way, I did that when I first learned about infinite banking. I was in group one. I said, hey, I want to do this. Maybe, I don't know. I want to learn about it. I went and found someone that said they could do it kind of, but I wanted to kind of be my own, my own guy doing it. Ended up losing a lot of money because I didn't know what I was doing. The person I went to was one of the people that did not know how to do it, but said they could. Long story short, I learned a lot of lessons. Ended up flying around. I actually flew around the country for a couple of years, learning about infinite banking, going and meeting with people that did it. And that's what I did. But you don't want to do that, by the way. It was very time consuming, cost a lot of money, by the way. So I always say group two. Group two is the one where let's just hop on a call. Let's just look at what we're trying to solve here. Let's answer your questions. There's no obligation. Let's see if infinite banking is a fit for you or if it's not. Because here's the thing. Infinite banking is not a fit for everybody. I'm not going to say that it is. It is not a fit for everybody. But here's one of the crazy things about infinite banking. Let's say if it's not a fit for you. Guess what? You can do a policy on your spouse, on your kids, on your business partners, other people, and you can be the owner of it. So it's a very versatile concept. So maybe say, hey, I can't qualify for a policy because maybe I've had, multiple heart attacks or I've had a heart transplant or whatever it is, right? You can actually do a policy on somebody else and you can be the owner of it, right? So it's very, very versatile. So bottom line, guys, go to brian.banker.com. Let's just hop on a call. Let's go through your questions. Let's go through your situation and see how infinite banking can work for you. And that's my last slide right here, guys. But I'll end with this quote. So the problem in America isn't so much what people don't know, it's what people think they know that just ain't so. I love that quote, by the way. It's why I did it again. But any questions you have, guys, go ahead and put them in the chat box. Go use the Q&A box. I'm also going to put my email address in here as well. So if you want to reach out to me personally, you can do that as well. Let me go ahead and put in my call link really quick. So yeah, just grab that link right there. This is being recorded, so we'll put this up. We'll send it out here probably tonight or tomorrow. But I'm also going to put in my personal email address right there as well. So if you have any questions that I did cover, any questions you want to, if you think of something down the road or after the presentation, let's go ahead and reach out to me personally at brian@chrisnagel.com. All right, John, I see that you're on here as well. Appreciate you inviting me on to speak, man. This is a kind of a cool concept. I love it. I could probably talk for another hour about it without even thinking about it. But I want to be respectful of your time and everybody else's time as well. So with that, if there's no other questions, I'll go ahead and let everybody get back to your days. But any last minute questions? So John says, I have a lot of rental property loans in the UK that I'm trying to pay off right now. Could this help with that? It could. It depends on where the capital and cash is for that, because now this is one thing with infinite banking. It's based in the US and Canada. So you can flow the money through the US and into the UK if you want. So like as an example, if you have money going out to those properties or going out to those loans, depends on where it's coming from. So if it's coming through the US, what you can do is take like lump sums and put it into the US, into your policy in the US, pull it back out as a loan provision, then that's cash. And you can do whatever you want with cash. So then it can go to pay off those loans, and then you're recapturing that. So yes, it can work. We do have some people that are doing that kind of stuff, that they're based in the US, but they have investments or other things outside the US. And so they have money in the US, they'll funnel through a policy first, pull it back out, then go put it to work in that vehicle, and then have it come back. So yeah, so that does happen for sure. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Charlie. Yeah, no worries. Yep. Yeah. And yeah, it might not be a fit right now, by the way. So this is one thing I also recommend is if you have people in your life that this might be a fit for, or that maybe they've mentioned it before, but or they want to learn more about this kind of stuff. Yeah, feel free to share this link or share the replay or whatever with other people. Yeah, because one of the things that we do at the Money Multiplier and our team is we're always trying to share this information, trying to get this out there, because one, there's a lot of misinformation about infinite banking out there in the industry, and we don't like that. So we're trying to share all of our information and our knowledge with as many people as possible, so that we can kind of cut through all the noise and really tell people this is how this truly works. So yeah, so we're very open about this concept. We're very open about how it works. And we're also very passionate about it. But yeah, Charlie, yeah, feel free to reach out to me, no problem. All right, everybody. Well, once again, I want to appreciate your guys' time. Thank you for being here. Thank you for the questions and all that stuff. So with that, I'll wish you guys a good day. And once again, go to brian.bankermaker.com, hop on a call with me personally, and then I'll talk to you guys soon. All right, take care, everybody. Thanks, John. Talk soon.